So, Born of Osiris. Man, I can still remember talking about the discovery earlier in this decade, really right as the decade became this decade, and loving that album so very, very much, to the point where now, watching their career trajectory, it certainly feels like a high. Their trajectory has kind of been like a weird roller coaster or a wavelength of sorts, where they have gone through their ups and downs, they have gone through personnel, really all the things that come standard with being a part of a band. So really, in the long run, Born of Osiris is no different than anybody else. Here in 2019, though, we have The Simulation, and it's the first of 2 albums that they will be releasing this year, which is, I believe, a first for them as far as full lengths are concerned, and they're on Sumerian Records. I think we've exposed, or at least discovered, a business model for Sumerian Records, who did this last year alongside of Between the Buried and Me. The Automata series was generally a success for the band. Both of the 2 albums seem to build a very nice whole cycle, so I wonder if the same will be true for Born of Osiris. This is a 25-minute long album, so it's not one that overstays its welcome, almost really more so of an EP length as opposed to a full-length album length, all depending on who you ask, but these 8 tracks do not really simulate Born of Osiris back there into the Discovery days. They do actually paint a little bit of those veins. They do kind of showcase some of that old school songwriting, especially on the second half of this disc. Let's go through it very, very quickly. The Accursed is more of a direct song for Born of Osiris. They kind of have a dual effect to themselves. They have songs that can be very, very direct, or sections that can be very direct, and they don't dip into the progressive metal well all of that much. This is progressive metalcore after all, so that adjective has to show up in a musical sense somewhere in order for it to qualify. This is not a song where that really happens. It's more direct, it's more focused, and right there in your face. There's a lot of folks out there that really enjoy this side of Born of Osiris because it's a little bit more on that brutal, very heavy, aggressive edge. Lyrics such as, I love you, but I'm fucking cursed, really go and touch them in some ways. Let's not go over that statement any further. This is one, though, for me at least. I know how creative this band can be, so this comes off as as I said, very direct, but not necessarily a highlight. Going into Disconnect Me or Cycles of Tragedy, this is where we're starting to get a little bit more of that overall creative edge. Whenever they bring in the bulk of their outside sources, whenever they start to hit in with some of those keys, or just really explore some of the real spectrums of their overall composition, is where Born of Osiris really is able to shine. Considering they have a sound that, while these days doesn't necessarily sound very unique, considering so many groups have adopted the progressive metalcore or progressive, whatever their sound is banner, Born of Osiris still feels like trailblazers in some ways, considering the sound overall is very, very smooth. Not to mention, it feels extremely natural. All of these sections really are very believable within the construction, and it follows the theory wonderfully. So as a result, songs such as Cycles of Tragedy, and especially Under the Gun, feel really, really massive and give you a lot of really good feelings. Some may even get a little bit of chills from some of the sections that these songs are able to produce, and they do this all while still maintaining that more brutal side, that more metalcore-friendly demeanor. So it's not like that's being sacrificed for this little bit of extra oomph. So it's one thing that has caused this little scene of bands, the progressive metalcore overall idea, to become a very large idea, where if you go anywhere and look at releases, you're going to see a bevy of them from bands that are hungry to hopefully keep that banner going. After the short introduction of Recursion, we get to Analogs in a Cell, and then Silence the Echo, which is just tremendous. This is a fantastic track, and then going into One Without the Other. These are 2 tracks that are able to end this album with a lot of strength. And whenever you hear those subtle key arrangements, or whenever you hear the arpeggiation on the guitars, and there's even a little bit of like somewhat genty groove that is able to inject itself into this also, which is kind of a nice touch because it just adds another layer. So you have a very multi-layered, multifaceted, it's almost like a gemstone, where you look at it and there's refraction points everywhere, which is a really cool thing. It is something that really, whenever you dig into compositions, you tend to find a lot more to really examine, look about, talk about. Things such as that. So I have to definitely give them a lot of praise for the way this album ends. I kind of really dug this. I thought this was a really cool little album. Again, 8 tracks being only 25 minutes, it doesn't overstay its welcome, but at the same time, it feels a little bit incomplete based around that, but the whole idea kind of wraps up, so maybe it's not nearly as bad as really being sort of like a cliffhanger style like we got with Automata last year, where Automata 1 felt extremely incomplete and very inconsistent. Instead, the Simulation by Born of Osiris feels very strong, and like the band was in a really good sort of sense, or a really good position whenever they wrote this material, so I would give this a 19. Which may seem a little bit low, but at the same time, I'm very excited to see the second album that goes along with this, because like what I did with Automata, I kind of want to look at these individually, but also together. And what happened last year was that Automata 2 was just such a huge and important album, really well done throughout the course of the calendar year, that I had to talk about that individually whenever the top 50 list came out. I would like to do Born of Osiris more so as a full set piece, but we'll see what happens. I want to know what you guys thought about the Simulation by Born of Osiris. Let me know in the comments below. My name is Cover Killer Nate. Wait a minute. We have merch! Yes. Down in the comments box below, not the comments box, the other one, the description box, there's a link. There's a link for merch. Cover Killer Nation merch. Can you believe it? It finally has happened. 6 years in the making. We have a t-shirt, a couple stickers. There's going to be more added as time goes on. Go to the link, get you some merch, wear it with pride. I'm Cover Killer Nation, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Take care.